Honourable members, prayers. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Thou members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served. Thy good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us the vision of our country, fair as it might be, country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service, and honor shall be given to the deserving, country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honourable members, we commence with the correction of the votes and proceedings of the 23rd sitting of the second meeting of the first session held on 6th July 2021. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10.
Yes, page 10.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Page 10, item 11, the second paragraph. Committee on Works and Housing and Trade, Industry and Tourism to investigate the matter. Day is omitted. The matter and reports the House within 4 weeks.
Very well. Thank you. Yes, Honourable Member 4.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. On the same page, item 11, paragraph 1, the fourth line. I think there's a problem with the spelling of adversity. E has been left out.
Thank you. The table office will take note and effect the correction. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Yes, Honourable Member 4. Buem.
Thank you, Speaker. The page just below what has been put into parenthesis Act 921 of has been omitted. Republic of Ghana.
Thank you. Page 16. Page 17. Yes, Honourable Member for Buem.
Mr. Speaker, page 17. The same thing has been repeated. The Republic Ghana off is omitted. So also below.
Which paragraph?
That's item
which
2.
line?
Item 2, sorry.
Item 2.
Fourth line.
Fourth line. Republic of Ghana. Thank you. Yes, Honourable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I have been marked absent. Yesterday I was in, but I've realized that my name is captured as absent.
Kindly start from which page you're referring
Page
to?
7, 11.
We've long gone past page 7. But
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. I just
so which item on page 7?
11.
Item 4, number 11.
Yes.
Abednego, Azuma.
Yes, please.
Very well. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Page 21. Honourable members, subject to the corrections effected, the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, the 6th of July, 2021, hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. We have an official report. The official report of Wednesday, 2nd June, 2021. Any corrections? In the absence of any corrections, the official report of Wednesday, 2nd June, 2021, is hereby adopted the true record of proceedings. Item 5 on the other paper, question time. Honourable members, the Honourable Minister for Health is scheduled to respond to a number of questions. Honourable Minister for Health. Yes. The first question stands in the name of the Honourable Member for Pandai. You may ask your question now, Honourable Member. Honourable Daniel Nsala Wapal.
For the opportunity to ask the Minister for Health what the minister to do to ensure that the perennial shortage of anti-snake serum in Pandai will be resolved once and for all.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Yes, the perennial shortage of anti-snake serum is resolved. The Ministry of Health has included the anti-snake serum in the framework contract for essential medicines. Under the framework contract, qualified firms are selected to supply anti-snake serum, which are located and distributed to to regional medical stores and teaching hospitals across the country. The Ministry of Health allocates the quantities to the regional medical stores and teaching hospitals based on their consumption and replenishes as the stocks reach their reorder level. As at 5th of July, Mr. Speaker, 2021, there were 220 vials of anti-snake at the Northern Regional Medical Stores where Pandai takes medicines from. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member. Do you have any follow-up questions, please?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In Pandai, the average daily snake bite are about 8 persons. If the minister says they supply 220 to the entire regional medical stores, then how many is located to the 2 hospitals in Pandai? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, like I just said, we do the allocations to the regional medical stores, and in the case of Pandai, they take theirs from the Northern Regional Medical Stores based on their needs. So as to the number of vials that have gone or goes to Pandai, Mr. Speaker, I will not be able to tell immediately. They will have to request from the stores when there is a need for them to use some of these serum.
Yes, honourable member, if you have any more.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to know what is the reorder level?
Mr. Speaker, I didn't hear the question properly.
Honourable member, I didn't hear the question either. Can you be clear?
The minister said, or according to the minister's answers, that the stocks or the replenish when it reach other level. And I said, what is the reach other level?
Mr. Speaker, this is a very difficult question I will not be able to answer now. We have over 56 lists of medicines on the essential medicines list. And for me to be able to actually learn by rotary the reorder levels for all these medications, and especially when it's coming to the regional distributions and so forth, I may have to go back and do some checks and find out what it is. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, if you have another follow-up question, please ask it.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the minister question, answers. 220 vials for the entire northern region. Don't you think it's too low or inadequate? Because we
Mr. Speaker, I just gave the stock quantity as at 5th of July. As we speak, it may have even been reduced, and any time that the storekeepers see their situation as to the indication of running out of stocks, they will do a reorder, and that will be supplied immediately. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You've exhausted your question. Thank you very much. Yes, honourable member.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out from the minister whether they do monitoring of the distribution of the vials, because they are mostly short in the system. Yes, but when you ask the ministry, they will tell you they have sent some to the regions, but we don't get them. We still buy from the shops. That the price ranges from 350 to 450 Ghana cedis, which is making it very difficult for people to acquire.
Mr. Speaker, what normally happens is that even if they are not in the Northern Regional Medical Stores, and there are nearby facilities that have got some stocks, anytime any hospital runs out, they do benchmarking, and they easily can borrow and take some from other facilities. So this idea of they are not there might not have been occasioned by non-supplies, but probably by the pharmacists in the facilities who are not actually working very efficiently to take stocks as and when they run out. So we may need to be constantly checking on them to make sure that these things are there.
Yes, Honorable Sanjananja.
Looking at the whole nation, this is a national issue, even though he had asked a specific question for his constituency. And looking at most of these regions, especially the northern region, and Puno now divided into three, this snake bite is very prevalent there. And we are always complaining of shortage. When you go to the hospitals, you don't get them. Would the ministry consider increasing the quantity that is sent to the regions?
Mr. Speaker, I was trying to look at the document, which unfortunately I can't find, that gives the last distribution that we did. I can remember Volta region, as at 5th, how many were sitting in their regional medical stores. We have these in various regional medical stores. The new regions that were created, we haven't got medical stores there. So they continue to take from nearby regional medical stores, not only anti-snake, but other, how do I call it, essential medicines. So we will be checking on these. And if any member gets to know that there isn't stocks in the facility that is close to you, please prompt and let us see how best we can get some of these things into your area. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Chairman.
Most grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I just want an assurance from the minister, because the truth of the matter is that we keep hearing the shortage of this anti-snake serum in our constituencies. So I want him to assure this House whether we are not going to hear of any shortage of anti-snake serum in this country this year. Thank you.
He won't give you an assurance of what you will think. He will speak to facts that you won't hear. He can't guarantee you that you won't hear. And I'm not admitting the question. That's what I mean.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want the minister to give us an assurance that there will not be shortage of anti-snake serum in this country this year.
Mr. Speaker, this assurance will take me into complex numbers situation. Mr. Speaker, I once visited Navrongo Hospital, and they had run out of stock of anti-snake serum. Then I asked questions. Luckily, I was visiting with the regional director for health services. Immediately, he called the regional stores, and there were vials, about 350, sitting in Bolga. Meanwhile, Navrongo didn't have nothing. So if I tell you I can give this assurance in all parts of the country, it will be very difficult. And I don't want to come and stand in front of Parliament, the Committee for Assurances, to try and answer to my own assurance. Mr. Speaker, I plead this question. It will be difficult for me to give this assurance.
Yes.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. My question to the Minister is that, are these serum, anti-snake serum meant for sale? Are they supposed to sell it, or it's free? If it's supposed to be sold, at what price is it supposed to be?
Mr. Speaker, anti-snake serum is supposed to be free. And if anyone sells to anybody and you come across it, please let us know.
Honourable members are moving on. The same things we are working around. Question number 52. Standing in the name of the Honourable Member for Sege, Honourable Otute. Yes.
Give us a copy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to ask the Minister for Health what plans the Ministry has to address the plight of persons with mental health problems in our society.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, persons with mental health problems in the country are in 4 categories. Those on the streets. Mr. Speaker, all this is to show that we know the size of the problem and how much it costs the nation. Mr. Speaker, the Ministry and its various institutions, the Mental Health Authority, the Ghana Health Service, and others, have human resources to deal with the problem. What we are doing now is to spread mental health service nationwide, integrate into the general health care, such that wherever we treat malaria, mental illness can be treated. This will help with access to care. Mr. Speaker, the Agenda 111 of the government includes 2 new psychiatric hospitals to be built in the northern and middle belts. The sites have been identified, drawings made, contractors are now being chosen. Until recently, psychiatric medication was not readily available. These medications are now available through budgetary allocations and donor support. We have trained more psychiatrists, Mr. Speaker, from 10 psychiatrists not long ago to 45 psychiatrists at the moment. Mr. Speaker, what is left now is, with your support, to find more money. The Ministry is working on how to establish mental health levy, which will hopefully solve most of the financial challenges. Increase in budgetary allocations will enable patients on the streets to be taken in small numbers at a time for treatment and sent back to their communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, if you have any follow-up questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I know from the Minister, because according to a portion of his answer, he said, now it's left with me and him to look for more money. May I know how much in his estimated budget that will be needed in order to remove all those in the street? Those.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, I haven't actually done the estimation of monies that we need to solve the problem immediately. I can come back and answer that question later.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to the categories he mentioned that we have, I want to find out from him if his ministry is in support with those that are in the traditional and faith healing centers. if they support where they are being treated, and as to whether they also get some support from them. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, the ministry is not in support of the category of cases that are found in the traditional and faith healing centers. The ministry doesn't extend support. Their mode of treatment does not conform with the ministry's treatment guidelines on mental cases. And we try to do advocacy to take some away from healing centers and even from traditional homes. Together with NGOs, we have worked, and the numbers are coming so down, and people are now resorting to attending to facilities that have been created across the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. May I know, so far, how many of those people on the street in the last 4 years of the minister have been taken away from the street?
I'm not member. I think that's a question on its own. Kindly ask another question.
Okay, may I also know how soon can we have maybe the first batch of people who could be taken away from the street? Because there are a lot of these people causing a lot of embarrassment, walking naked in the high streets, throwing stones to drivers, and really it's a cause of worry for some of us.
Speaker, with your indulgence, I want my colleague to try to repeat the question.
Yes,
Mr. Speaker,
can you repeat the question?
Yes, please, I'm ready to do so. I was asking, how soon can we start removing the first set of people? Yes, as he said, that we cannot pick them all at a go, but because of other challenges like facilities where they will put them, how soon are we going to remove the first set of those people in the street? Because some of them are walking naked in the streets, throwing stones at drivers and other pedestrians, which is really a serious cause of worry to some of us.
Mr. Speaker, despite our budgetary constraints, we try to remove violent ones as and when cases are reported to us, and they are not in very large numbers. But we are working towards taking all of them out. As soon as we get money, we will begin to do that exercise. But we take them from time to time when we get cases of violent behavior or some of them who are in the streets. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Another member for Colleague Clote, is that right?
Honorable Speaker, I'd like to ask the Minister how many drug rehabilitation centers there are in Ghana, given that the high rate of drug abuse is leading to a lot of mental illness.
Mr. Speaker, I will try to make the effort to answer this question. This was not the main question, so I didn't actually prepare for this. I know of one at Pantan. That is a public facility. But some civil society organizations have got a semblance of rehab centers across the country. I'll have to check on the numbers and come back to the House to answer properly. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes,
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in the Minister's answer in paragraph 4, the states is clearly established that 41% of Ghanaians have psychological distress, whether mild, moderate, or severe. Mr. Speaker, I want to find out what is the cause of this psychological distress affecting 41% of Ghanaians? And what are the preventive...
Honourable Member, bring your own question so he will prepare for you, please.
Mr. Speaker, can I reframe?
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to find out from the Minister what are the preventive measures to deal with this issue of 41% of Ghanaians having psychological distress, because in his answer, he has talked about psychiatric interventions, building of hospitals and other, but this is psychological, not psychiatric. So what are preventive measures for? What are the preventive measures the ministry is taking in place to address the 41% of Ghanaians having psychological distress? Because in the answer, he's talked about building hospitals, psychiatrists, but the problem is psychological. So I haven't seen any preventive measures. So that is my question, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, a psychology council that registers psychologists and regulates the profession has been established. They started working, registering psychologists to make sure, right, examining them and training so that we'll have psychologists in the system. By policy, every district hospital should have at least one psychologist. And we have some of them in some of our facilities, especially in the cities. When you go to Rage Hospital, you go to Kolebu, you go to University of Ghana Medical Center, all these facilities now have psychologists who actually attend to some of these cases that we have. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. In the response of the minister, he cites funding as a challenge, but the mental health, the act that establishes the Mental Health Authority mandates the ministry to set up a fund which can deal with some of these challenges. What is preventing the ministry from setting up the fund?
Just because we are still working on the regulations that will enable us actually institute the levy. And as soon as we complete that exercise, we will place it in the chamber for approval and we start setting up that fund. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the minister indicates in his answer that there are people living with mental health who, in their houses and organizations, who do not recognize their mental health illness, or who recognize but are not doing anything about it. I want to find out from this, the minister what his ministry is doing to create mental health awareness and to also help people to seek help for this category. Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, we continue to do advocacy to try to educate people to attend facilities when they get any feeling or they suspect that people have these mental disorders. So, Speaker, at various workplaces, you find some staff whose conduct and their behavior doesn't conform. By rule, the civil service, when you identify that, you should even refer that person for psychiatric attention, psychological attention. But in some instances, even if you refer to you talk to the person, he will refuse to even attend to the type of advice you want to give. So we continue to engage, and advocacy is the only strategy we are using at the moment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Please, I want to find out from the Honourable Minister what measures have been put in place to increase the number of psychiatrists? Because if we have only 45 at the moment, and we have over 30 million Ghanaians, if you look at the ratios, about 1 psychiatrist to 6 million people. And I think it is woefully inadequate. So I want to know what measures have been put in place to increase the number of psychiatrists in the country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, psychiatrist training is a specialized area, and government has actually opened up the college to all medical officers who want to specialize. And this is one area we are trying to use free postgraduate training to drive interest to see how best we can train a lot more for our system. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The next question is in the name of the Honorable James Kluche Abeji, Honorable Member for K2 North. Yes.
Right, Honorable Speaker, I'm not the member for K2 North. That's the minority, deputy minority leader is currently at early accounts. May I have, if you give me the audience, I'll ask the question on his behalf.
Do you have his permission to ask it on his behalf?
Yes.
Very well, you may proceed.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. I rise to ask our colleague, the Minister responsible for health, what is delaying the K2 North Municipal Hospital at Veta from starting operation after it was commissioned by His Excellency President Nana Akufo-Addo since November 2020.
Mr. Speaker, the ministry, beyond the commissioning by His Excellency the President, has undergone and completed the technical testing and commissioning process. The handing over to the Ghana Health Service for training and operationalization has been done as at 30th of June 2021. What has delayed the starting of operations is placement of staff. Clinical staff have not been identified, and interviews have just been completed for non-clinical staff. Very soon, Mr. Speaker, the people of Weta and its environs will benefit from the services the hospital is going to offer. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, may I know from the Minister, normally the process of completion, testing, and handing over is done in tandem with the ministry. How come in this particular almost 7 months after the project has been commissioned, that is substantially completed and handed over to the ministry, we are still in the process of putting together the relevant staff from, is this standard practice?
Mr. Speaker, the ministry has always had challenges with financial clearance to recruit staff, especially non-core medical staff. And in this instance, we identify core staff that can be pulled from one place to the other. And because they are on the mechanized payroll, if you pull somebody from Hohoi, for example, to go to Weta, his salary is already on the payroll. But if you pull a non-core medical staff, who apparently is being paid with IGF from Hohoi to Weta, that person cannot be paid. So you have to wait until you get financial clearance to recruit to be able to operationalize these new facilities. That is the reason why this has delayed. We have worked so far. And last week, after we handed over the facility to Ghana Health Service, the regional director has started interviewing people to try to put some people there to operationalize the facility for us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, may I ask the Minister if this hospital is part of Agenda 111?
I'm sorry, it's part of the
Agenda 111.
Oh, no. This place was started far before even dreaming of Agenda 111. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm satisfied with the answer. Thank you.
Very well. Question number 54. In the name of the Honorable Member for Sola Tuna Kaba, Albert Tete. Sorry. Chiwete, you may ask your question now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Health when the Solatuna Kalba District Hospital will be operationalized.
Mr. Speaker, the Solatuna Kalba District Hospital has been completed. Under the 5 district hospitals, Sola, Tolong, Bupe, Weta, and Somana, and 1 polyclinic project, Bamboy. The facility has been handed over to the Ghana Health Service for training and operationalization. This was done on the 21st of June 2021. The Ghana Health Service will deploy staff to commence operationalization of the hospital to benefit the people of Solatuna Kalba District and its environs. Mr. Speaker, it is anticipated that the hospital will commence operations by the end of August. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, Minister, has the ministry considered having talks with the finance minister to have clearance for recruiting the following staff to manage the facility well? That's radiographers, dentists, or dental nurses, because the facility comes with these departments, but we don't have staff in the district as we talk. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, we are seriously working on that. Not only solar, but other facilities that we mentioned. So we anticipate that by the end of August, we should be able to give some skeleton staff to start in the area. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know whether the minister is aware that the hospital has general ward, male and female, and then a ward for women who deliver freshly, but they have not made provision for children's ward. What is his thinking about it? Has the ministry had any plan of getting a place attached to the hospital to have children's ward?
Mr. Speaker, I haven't been to the facility. I didn't go to do a handover. I have to talk to the technical people to try to find out if what my colleague is saying is actually correct. Then we'll find a way to try to remedy the defect. It will be a very serious defect not to have a children's ward in such a facility. We'll have to check on that and see how we can probably improvise to change the situation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Once again, I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the facility has not come with a dedicated water system. And so they're going to rely on the small town water system in Sola, which is not very good for that purpose because they don't have regular flow of water. And the street leading to the facility too, no lighting system. Will the ministry consider improving on all these facilities before the operationalization of the hospital?
Mr. Speaker, the ministry will consider improving on these facilities. You can't run a hospital without very basic utilities like water and electricity. And anytime we hand over for operationalization and a lot more people get into the facility, we see defects and we might see water shortages and whatever. When it comes to that situation, we try as much as possible to rectify the issue. So the ministry will consider improving on these. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You're done. Yes.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I want to find out from the minister whether they have made provision for seed money, seed capital for the operations of the polyclinic. Because we are aware that Tolon's own was commissioned 7 months today, and as we speak, nothing is happening there. somebody told me one of the reasons because we do not have operational capital. Have you made provision for seed capital so that when the solar one starts, you will be able to move on very well? Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, this is a problem that is running through the facilities. We have now decided that whatever hospital we are building, we will put into the cost of building the seed capital to enable us to operationalize the facility as soon as it is completed. But there are some little things that are already there. All the hospitals utilize the regional medical stores, and therefore basic medications and non-drug commodities can easily be taken from these without any seed capital in the hospital. We are considering this. We always discuss about this, and it looks like we'll be able to provide for solar to begin the time that we are anticipating. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, leader.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, these 5 district hospital projects, Sola, Tolong, Bupe, Wita, in the Vota region, and Somana, were started by the erstwhile Mahama administration. Does it mean after they being handed over to the Honorable Minister, provision was not made for recruitment of staff, and that is why they have been commissioned and still not being operationalized?
Mr. Speaker, that is the case.
Very well. I'll move on. Question number 83. In the name of the Honorable Member for Yilo Krobo, Mr. Abetete Nyakote.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. My question to the Honorable Minister is when there will be financial clearance for the recruitment of support staff for the new Somana District Hospital, and when the hospital will be commissioned. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, the Ministry has applied for financial clearance for recruitment of support staff, and when this is approved, the Somana District Hospital will be allocated with the requisite support staff to enable operations to commence. Meanwhile, clinical staff have been identified and will soon be posted to the facility. We are anticipating that the hospital will be commissioned before the end of August 2021. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Honorable Minister if he will take steps to ensure that the recruitment of support staff will either be done locally or we ensure that the constituents, the indigents, also get jobs that will be available in the hospital.
Mr. Speaker, by our convention, support staff are always recruited locally. And so in the case of Somana, that is what we plan to do. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, are you done? Very well. The next question is also in your name. Question number 84.
Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the Honorable Minister, when the works on the Hinkwao and Akol Bana chip compounds, which were 95% complete in 2016, will be finally completed and commissioned.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Ahinkwa Chips compound was initiated and implemented by the Yilo Krobo Municipal Assembly, whereas the Akol Bana was under the Special Investment Fund with partial funding also from the Assembly. The District Health Directorate has been directed to assess both projects and report on the status and cost of completion. This will enable the ministry to know the level of completion and the cost required for subsequent budgeting. And we're going to liaise with the Assembly to see how best this can be resolved. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Member, do you have a follow-up question? Yes, please.
Mr. Speaker, this is a follow-up question. I want to ask the Minister why the cheap compounds were abandoned since 2016, and why he's saying he's now telling us that they are going to look for funds to complete.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, all I wanted to say is that that particular project was not the ministry's project. It was started by this Assembly without giving any prior notice to the ministry. And therefore, we couldn't go to just own it and start working on it, especially so when we also have serious budgetary constraints. So answering questions in this area will be a very difficult question for me. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can the Honourable Minister give me a date on when the jobs will be completed? These are cheap compounds which are about 95% complete.
When who will be recruited?
Date for completion. These are cheap compounds which are 95% complete.
I think the Minister has said repeatedly that it is not the Ministry of Health's project. It's a project done by the Assembly itself. So he cannot answer questions relating to delay in completion by the Assembly. I think you're also a member of the Assembly, aren't you? So kindly ask the question
Yes,
to
Mr. Speaker.
your DCE. Very well, I'll move on.
Mr. Speaker, my final question.
You are also, okay, question 85 is also in your name. Kindly proceed.
Mr. Speaker, my final question. I want to ask the Minister when the maternity block at the Somana Polyclinic will be completed and commissioned, and then provided with anesthesia machine and emergency units.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the information gathered indicates that the ground floor of the maternity block of the Somana Polyclinic was initiated and implemented by civil society organization or non-governmental organization called IPAS, IPAS Ghana. The organization deals with access to contraceptives and safe abortions, and was completed in 2012 per their scope. The scope was to have a few offices for their officers to provide safe abortion care to the people within that catchment area. Subsequently, IPAS supported the Municipal Assembly to expand it into the provisions of a maternity block for the polyclinic by completing the floor. After taking over the ground floor, the Municipal Assembly has not been able to continue. That is the information that we have gathered when this question was filed. However, Mr. Speaker, the provision of an 80-bed hospital for Ile Krobo municipality located at Somana has an ultramodern maternity block fitted with all the required equipment to provide the services currently rendered by the end of September 2021, as indicated earlier. So the new hospital will take care of the maternity thing. What you are talking about is for the Assembly, and my mandate doesn't get into the Assembly. And Mr. Speaker, I think my colleague will be better answered by the District Chief Executive or MCE in the area when it comes to this particular facility. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm done. Sorry.
Honourable Minister, you disabled me. Can you switch off the mic? Thank you. Question number 86, also in the name of the Honorable Member for Sege. Honorable Collected Otutai.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again, to ask the Minister for Health if the Ministry is aware that the National Ambulance Service Vehicle with registration number GV 537-20 was used to cut cement, and if the said ambulance is assigned to the Sege constituency. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister of Health is aware that a national ambulance vehicle with registration number GB 53720, which was in the custody of Service Ghana Auto Limited, was used by a mechanic to cut cement. The said ambulance is not assigned to Sege constituency. The ambulance assigned to Sege has a registration number of GB 67719. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, once again. May I know from the Minister, since he confirmed that the Ministry is aware of the said ambulance being used for cutting cement, what is the reason and which particular constituency is that ambulance assigned to?
Honorable Minister, if I recall, you came to make a statement on this matter on the floor of the House. So, Honorable Member, this matter is already before the House. Information is available in the Hansard. So, I will not admit the question. That brings us to the end of question time. Honorable Minister, thank you for attending upon the House to answer the questions. You are discharged. Item number 6, statements. 3 statements have been admitted. Actually 4. We have agreed that after the statement is read, we'll admit 2 comments from each side of the House. So please let's stick to that. The first one is in the name of the Honorable Member for Finso South, Dr. Isaac Yaopoku, on the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease, a potential threat to the cocoa industry in Ghana. Honorable Member, you may read your statement now.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make a statement on the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease, which is a potential threat to the cocoa industry in Ghana. Right Honorable Speaker, this statement is based on my felt experience as part of an entourage of the Chief Executive of Ghana Cocoa Board on his cocoa swollen shoot virus disease affected areas in the country between 2019 and 2020. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease situation in the country now is extremely horrible and terrifying. In all areas visited, Mr. Speaker, particularly in the Western North, Western South, Eastern region, and parts of the Bono East, Ahafo, Central, Volta, and Ashanti region, large tracts of cocoa farms were severely affected, with most of the trees completely dead. Mr. Speaker, for some background, the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease was first reported in the country in 1936 in the Eastern region. Its spread pathway shows that from the eastern region, it extended to the Ashanti, Central, Volta, the previous Bono-Ahafo region, and now the western regions. In effect, Mr. Speaker, the disease is now found in all the cocoa growing regions in Ghana. Incidentally, Mr. Speaker, the disease occurs mainly in the West African sub-region. It was first reported in Nigeria in 1944, Cote d'Ivoire in 1946, Togo in 1949, and Sierra Leone in 1963. The regional occurrence of the disease and the quest for research information on ways to manage the problem led to the establishment of the West African Cocoa Research Institute in 1938, today the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana at Achimtafo. Mr. Speaker, according to the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana, a division of Cocoa Board, 12 strains of the virus have been identified. Unfortunately, the strains in the western region and adjoining areas of the Bono and Ahafo regions are more virulent than the other strains in the country. Mr. Speaker, 5 alternative host plants have also been identified. These are Cola clamitanda, Adansonia digitata, Ciba pitendra, Cola giganta, and Steculia tragacanthanda. Mr. Speaker, the cocoa swollen shoot virus is one of the limiting factors of cocoa production in Ghana. Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana has reported that the disease can substantially reduce yield by up to 70% and eventual death of the tree within 2 years. Mr. Speaker, when the disease started in the eastern region in 1936, apparently only a few trees and farms were affected. Between 1944 and 1945, when the first reconnaissance survey was conducted, about 59 million cocoa trees were found to be affected. In a matter of 5 years, when the first countrywide survey was conducted, it spread to the other regions, had affected over 135 million trees. Ask you, Mr. Speaker, how fast the disease can spread. Mr. Speaker, in a second countrywide survey between 2014 and 2017, which covered about 70% of the estimated cocoa area, the Cocoa Health and Extension Division of Cocoa Board reported that 315,000 out of 1.9 hectares were affected with the disease. That is 16.5% of the cocoa area, and over 300 million cocoa trees were affected by the disease. Mr. Speaker, the breakdown was as follows. The western region, which was once the largest cocoa producing region in the country, was the hardest hit with 214,000 out of 509,000 hectares of cocoa farms, representing over 42% of cocoa area affected. Mr. Speaker, the Western South had 24,000 out of 408,000 hectares, Eastern Region 41,000 out of 167,000, Central Region 12,000 out of 150,000, the former Bono-Ahafo region 11,000 out of 223,000, Ashanti region 7,000 out of 424,000, and the Volta region about 5,000 out of 30,000 hectares were affected. Mr. Speaker, to date, the only effective method of managing the disease is the cutting out method. That is the removal of affected trees and their contacts and replacing them with tolerant hybrid varieties. The National Disease Eradication and Restoration Program using the cutting out method was therefore officially launched in 1946. An important aspect of the program was that affected farms were given appropriate compensation. Mr. Speaker, by 1962, the disease was considered to be under control as the number of new infections reported across the country was low. Unfortunately, the cocoa production division responsible for the cutting out program was disbanded, and the continuation of the program was handed over to individual farmers to carry the control program through. Farmers, however, failed to continue with the cutting out process as recommended, and the process was literally stopped in 1962. Mr. Speaker, the Cocoa Production Division restarted the program and introduced the Plant as You Cut scheme instead of the monetary compensation payout in 1969 to avoid the complications and difficulties of monetary payment to farmers. The Plant as You Cut scheme involved replanting and maintenance of treated farms for a period of 3 years before they were handed back to the farmer. This new scheme operated smoothly, but was again opposed by farmers as a result of a promise by the government to reinstate monetary payment as compensation. This led to the total suspension of the program in 1980. Even though the program was reinstated in the mid-1980s, it has suffered intermittent stoppages, the most recent being 2013 until 2017. Mr. Speaker, the main challenges of the cocoa swollen shoot virus disease control program have been as follows: breaks in interruption in the control program due to insufficient or lack of funds, farmers' opposition to treatment resulting in low response to treatment, low compensation paid at a slow rate, and at times no compensation paid at all to the affected farmers, frequent layoff of trained and skilled personnel, scattered and uncoordinated manner in which treatments were conducted, unattractive rates for tree removal, which resulted in persistent shortage of labor to remove infected trees when most needed, non-payment of outstanding tree removal costs and ex gratia, cumbersome processes and methods used in previous sectoring, surveys, and treatment activities. Mr. Speaker, the combination of these factors made it impracticable to control the disease to a manageable level in the past. Mr. Speaker, this country must avoid the unfortunate situation in which Brazil finds itself today. In the 1980s, the witch's broom disease, which is caused by Moniliophora perniciosa, devastated the cocoa industry in Brazil. Its cocoa production declined from 406,000 metric tons in the 1984-85 crop season to 124,000 metric tons in 1999-2000. Brazil, which was the second largest producer in the world, is now a net importer of cocoa. Mr. Speaker, Ghana must avoid the Brazilian situation, which has been described as bioterrorism. Mr. Speaker, Ghana Cocoa Board must be commended for the following measures put in place to control the disease: tripling the number of extension staff assisting farmers in the management of the disease, initiating a third nationwide survey to determine the extent of the disease infection, improving education and incentive package to farmers, payment of compensation not only to affected farmers, but also to landlords in the case of tenancy, establishing technical cooperation between Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire to embark on back-to-back disease control. Mr. Speaker, recognizing the damaging effect of the disease and the uneconomic contribution of average farms to cocoa production, Ghana Cocoa Board has secured $600 million United States dollars as long-term facility to revamp the cocoa sector, out of which $223 million is being committed to intensive cocoa rehabilitation program in the affected cocoa areas. It is gratifying to know, Mr. Speaker, that some of the treated farms have started bearing fruits 2 years after treatment. Mr. Speaker, it is important to bring to the fore that the ongoing rehabilitation program is expected to cover only 156,400 hectares of the affected cocoa farms countrywide within a period of 4 years, that is from 2019 to 2024. This will leave over 200,000 hectares untreated farms at the end of the period, assuming the disease is static and there is no further spread. This calls for relook of our efforts as a nation in addressing the disease. Mr. Speaker, I therefore suggest the following. The country must look for more funding to cover CSSVD affected areas outside the AFDB program. There must be massive media publicity and mass education on the benefits of cocoa swollen shoot virus disease control program to get all affected farmers on board. Necessary measures should be put in place to address farmers' concerns and minimize their opposition to treatment. Compensation to affected farmers must be further improved to make it more reassuring for affected farmers to cooperate. Special funds must be devoted to Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana to scale up the disease control research program and for the disease control program in general. Special National Service and NAPCO groups should be trained to assist the disease control program. And Mr. Speaker, last but not the least, a law is passed by this Honorable House to make the treatment of affected farms compulsory. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your kind attention.
Two comments from either side. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and let me thank the Honorable Member for Finso South for taking us through the history of swollen shoot virus disease in the country. Mr. Speaker, the history of swollen shoot virus disease in this country is very, very interesting indeed. In fact, it is the underlying equation which has seen migration of peoples throughout the cocoa belt, from people from Kroboland to Sevi, from Ashanti to the western region, and, Akwapims to the Wasa parts of the western region, and so on and so forth, because the migration followed the areas that were devastated by the swollen shoot virus. Mr. Speaker, again, the swollen shoot virus is a virus which is endemic in West Africa, and indeed is endemic to certain trees like kola nuts and whatnot. So in some sense, cocoa came to meet swollen shoot virus in West Africa. But for some reason, when cocoa was introduced, the virus decided that the best crop to attack was cocoa. That is why apparently it appears to attack only cocoa, but indeed it attacks several tree crops in the sub-region. Mr. Speaker, yes, the maker of the statement has given the evolution of the disease and how governments have made attempts, indeed, to stop it or stem and control it. Indeed, during the President Kufuor regime, the virus threatened to devastate the cocoa industry, and it was recognized as such. That is why a whole unit was set up to control it. But it was continued by the Mills government. Unfortunately, in 2013, something happened which it beats my mind. The whole structure or the whole enterprise to control the disease was brought to an abrupt end. And that is why the Western North, if I may use it as an example, which was producing in excess of 350,000 metric tons, suddenly within a space of 2-3 years, that is 2016, 2017, 2018, the cocoa crop dropped from some 350,000 metric tons to about 150,000 metric tons now. It has indeed devastated the economies of several districts such as also Bia East, Bia West, Akontomra, Bodi, Asankre, that's Menfi West. And indeed, yours truly has lost several farms to this virus. It was very unfortunate position that the government then took. Currently, government has that is the President Nana Adanko's government, is taking steps, and like we heard, is taking steps to revive or to control the devastation. Currently, they've taken a loan, Ghana has taken a loan from the African Development Bank, and together with La Côte d'Ivoire, there is an international cooperation, and when it was even launched in Pilar, I think 32, between the borders between the La Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana, there was a ceremony attended by the two presidents. Mr. Speaker, we've made a lot of strides in this area, even in the area of control, even in the last few years. Suffice to say that some of the byproducts, the plantain growth in Ghana, for example, came from the cocoa that were cut down because we needed plantain suckers to provide shade. That is why apparently there was even plantain growth in Ghana. People, over the last few years, people do not realize that it's a massive contribution from that intervention. But needless to say that several areas are making a lot of strides and responding. If you go to a town like Mesalai, Abuaji Krum, Nsawi also municipality, you will find it's a joy to watch how the farmers have responded to this whole enterprise. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are issues that have to be addressed by the government, even though steps have been taken to do that. The tenant farmers, when you cut the cocoa down, the agreement is that the tenancy or those who do what you call abunu, when you let out the land, the tenancy is regard to the tree crop, the number of, their duration. So if you cut the cocoa down, the allodia farmer or the allodia owner of the land has the right to come and take over the land. Yes, compensation is being paid to both tenant farmers and then allodia landowners. But apparently it's not enough. So there's a lot of social rife in this area, and government must pay attention to that, because the tenant and migrant farmers have made a lot of contribution towards the cocoa industry in this area. Mr. Speaker, before I take my seat, I believe that, like the maker of the statement said, things must be scaled up. And again, the cocoa board, or specifically the crop, Craig and other areas must come out with a better algorithm to deal with the menace, because the menace is not a uniform menace. It is not as if when you see one one tree infected by the virus, then it means the farm should be condemned. I know that the tree must be cut down, and those that are surrounding it must also be cut down. But there's this phenomenon of asymptomatic trees. because Crete supply we the farmers with trees which were bred to resist the swollen shoot virus disease. So sometimes the classical symptoms that are exhibited by the trees are not apparent. The only symptom that you can see is that there's a loss of production. Otherwise, the tree looks healthy. But of course, non-productive trees can also result from other factors. So it's causing a lot of consternation in that place. The CREED and the other research institutions might come with a better algorithm, because I can cite an example. I resisted one of my farms being cut down, and I treated it for soil depletion, and now it is one of the most productive farms. So I'm serving notice that they should come out with a better, a better policy or a plan for making out disease farms. As for the gross ones, yes, that is what we are dealing with. That one is apparent to every eye, and I agree that they must be cut down and replanted. But in fact, following from the response from farmers, I submit that this is the best way. The cutting down of the trees and managing the disease trees, and then also replanting is the best way to treat this swollen shoot virus disease. And if it is scaled up, Ghana will be better for it. With this, I thank the maker of the statement for this very important intervention in this country's agricultural history. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement able made by my colleague. I think he has looked at a very important area, which is cocoa. We all know that cocoa is a very important crop for Ghana. It contributes about 3% to our GDP. And about 20-25% of exports that we undertake in Ghana, cocoa contributes about 20-25%. And then about 2/3 of the income that comes from farmers is from cocoa. So cocoa is important. And disease is one of the very challenges that are faced by cocoa farmers. And the swollen shoot disease, which he has mentioned, is the major enemy to cocoa farmers. And it is important that he has raised it for concern. We need to, as a country, look at building the capacity of the entomologists, the pathologists, because they hold solution to coming out with technologies or innovations that can fight these diseases. When you go to the universities, among the 4 lecturers you will find are the pathologists and the entomologists. These are people who are well versed, well trained. They have the capacity to embark on an experiment and come out with innovations that can control diseases. But unfortunately, they are not resourced. So I think that government should, in dealing with these diseases as a long term, they should consider training more entomologists, building the capacity of more entomologists for them to undertake more experiments and come out with solution to our diseases. It is also important to for government to strengthen the capacity of extension, because the source of information for farmers is from the extension. And when the extension services don't have the capacity to be able to reach out to farmers, then it becomes a problem. In recent times, we realize that one of the collapsed units you will find in MOFA is the extension. Meanwhile, extension is very critical for the development of our nation, particularly building the knowledge capacity of farmers. So government needs to look at this very seriously. I think that with these few words, I thank Mr. Speaker for the opportunity to contribute to the discussion. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. And let me commend the maker for the statement, a very well-researched one. Speaker, one of the facts that came out in the statement was the discovery of the swollen shoot disease in the year 1936 in the eastern region. And we are told that necessitated government action for the establishment of the Cocoa Research Institute. Now, many years down the lane, we may have to ask ourselves as a nation if our commitment towards this center, set up with so much commitment and state resources, is something that we can be proud of, or there is more that we have to do. We all know cocoa as one of our major cash crops, and hence anything that comes up as a threat is a threat to the whole nation and the economy as well. So this is not something we have to toy with. But there are a few interventions that we have to be proud of as a country. Even though there have been intermittent interventions, recent times there have been some consistent action by government, and it's something we need to be proud of, replicated, and ensure that we improve upon it. And one of them is that, unlike the past, where some action have been undertaken to destroy these affected cocoa plants because the disease is viral based, hence it cannot be cured. We practically have to destroy the plant. Government has gone ahead to ensure that deserving compensations are paid to farmers accordingly. And not just that, not just the payment of the compensation. The Ghana Cocoa Board has practically ensured that after the payment of the compensation, the trees are planted to replace the destroyed ones. For me, I find that very commendable. Beyond the plantation of the cocoa seedlings, government has even gone ahead to plant plantain. And we know the significance of plantain that provides shade, some form of shade, for the growth and the creation of microclimates for the growth of the cocoa plantation. So, all said and done, the efforts are good enough, but it also stands to reason that we have to improve upon it, following some complaints that have come out from our farmers. Speaker, let me conclude by saying that among the suggestions from the maker of the statement is supporting the Cocoa Research Institute and even probably thinking about drafting an act of parliament, sort of, to guide and regulate this whole activity of destroying the plant, because some concerns about rights also come up, and it's something we have to rear our heads to. So in conclusion, I think that government has to do more. We cannot toy with cocoa, even though there are been some significant interventions. We need to do more, particularly in the area of research, because we can develop more resistant varieties which may not totally withstand the virus, but will largely support and help in the control of the spread of the virus. We are told that the significant tour that was undertaken by the Chief Executive of the Cocoa Board in 2019 and 2020, it came out that in the western north of Ghana, more than 70% of cocoa plants have been destroyed by the virus. And if this is something that we shouldn't gloss over and pay attention to ensure that we support the sector. Let me commend the current Chief Executive of the Ghana Cocoa Board Mr. Abraham Edu, who has been wonderful, consistent. The Honorable Joseph Boahin Edu, who has been very consistent in not just his call, but practical action in supporting this cocoa rehabilitation program. It's something we have to be proud of and urge him to continue on that lane to improve the entire cocoa sector. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Very well. I'll move on to the next statement. It's on the viability of yam farming for exports in the Pandai constituency in the northern region of Ghana.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to make a statement on the floor of the House on the viability of yam farming for exports in the Pandai constituency of the northern region of Ghana. The Pandai constituency is very well known for its yam farming activities and can easily be considered one of the yam production hubs for the entire nation. Mr. Speaker, agriculture accounts for about 90% of the constituency labor force, while commerce and industry sector account for about 10%. Yam is an extremely vital crop, both in the domestic and international market, and it is a major staple in most Ghanaian homes. Industrial processing and the utilization of the yam includes starch, poultry, livestock feed, the production of yam flour. Currently, Mr. Speaker, Ghana is one of the leading exporters of yam, contributing to about 36% of the world's exports, according to 2010 Ministry of Food and Agriculture report. Despite the massive potential, agricultural activities in the constituency continue to dwindle. Mr. Speaker, the potential of yam to contribute to the Ghana development is challenged, mainly due to the use of traditional technologies, where the majority of farmers in the constituencies rely on molded and labor-intensive tools, which are not suitable for the large-scale farming. Additionally, only about 50% of the farmers use fertilizers due to the cost, unmotorable route network, and the poor feeder routes linking the villages and the farm makes transportation of the fertilizers to the district capital a difficult task. There is also the absence of a ready market for the tons of yam produced, and those that manage to make it to the market are sold cheaply due to the lack of adequate storage facility. Additionally, Mr. Speaker, post-harvest losses caused by waste loss, pest decay, and the sprouting has been a problem for farmers in the constituency due to the lack of these proper storage facilities. Mr. Speaker, yam processing in Ghana is highly underdeveloped due to the limited innovation in the production technology, as well as the lack of general awareness and acceptance by the consumers. In effect, there is very little value addition to the yam which is produced. Mr. Speaker, if we are to take yam production seriously, especially in the northern part of the country, there will be the need to engage major stakeholders in order to put concrete measures in place to ensure the sustainability of the production for a decade to come. Mr. Speaker, I would like to suggest some solutions. First of all, we need to take seriously the need for the establishment of wire markets with the capacity to store, package, export directly from the district without transporting them to the city of Accra and Kumasi. Additionally, there should be effort to create an environment that stimulates entrepreneurship among young farmers, service providers, the buying companies. This will lead to increased productivity and high income for the farmers. Also, the incentive that cocoa farmers enjoy should be extended to the young farmers. Young farmers should be given the opportunity to access credit, short loan to boost production, as well as other rural development services. Finally, Mr. Speaker, there should be a body similar to Cocoa Board to control the many parts of the yam, the many parts of the supply chain, to set prices, ensure quality control, undertake research, provide extension, and also buy and process part of the yam for export. If farmers knows there is ready market from the government, they are assured of a fixed prices per a determined weight. It will be a source of encouragement for the thousands of unemployed youth to venture into yam production. Mr. Speaker, I look forward to the day yam production will be given the same attention as cocoa, because it is very capable of generating the same revenue level if all these challenges are adequately resolved. I thank you once again, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity to comment on this statement by my honorable colleague. I am Honorable Joseph Kwame Kuma, MP for Kintampo. Mr. Speaker, it is very appropriate that at this time of the year or in question we discuss about yam production. Viability of yam farming for export in the Panda constituency of the northern region of Ghana cannot be more appropriate than this time of the year, because this is the period the rains are set for yam farmers to be able to do their weeding and cropping and make sure that they come out with a bumper yield. Yes, my brother has indicated the challenges yam farmers are facing in the nation. And so does it affect almost every farmer who farms yam in every corner of our dear country. Because of that, Sadat and FAMI 2010 also enumerated problems facing smallholder farmers. And they identified that land fragmentation is one of the things that has always been causing yam farmers not to have enough yield. Low access to agrochemicals, as he indicated, poor road infrastructure, since a lot of yams are left to rot at the farms, low level of mechanization, which he has appropriately identified. Currently, in most constituencies, including Kintampo, Mr. Speaker, this issue is affecting yam farmers as well. Mr. Speaker, I need to add my issue I have identified is that the lack of cattle grazing parks, which is having very adverse effect on tuber crops in Ghana in general, must be considered as a national security issue. Because cattle owners, we know, agri is the cultivation of crops and the rearing of animals, as we are all aware. Animals, farmers are also farmers. However, if the nation doesn't take care by getting proper places for animals to graze separately, while tuber crop farmers also have their free field to farm, in the near future, Ghana is going to suffer, and we will not make the potential that yam has for the nation. We need both to survive. We need the animals, we need the food crops. They are all important. However, as a nation, We must find the best way to blend the two. With these few words, I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing me to comment on the statement. Thank you.
Yes, Honourable Member for Kole Klote.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement. Right Honourable Speaker, yam is a superfood, and it's high in fiber, potassium, manganese, as well as folate, copper, and vitamin C, amongst others, which means it has positive effects on making sure that the body produces enough red blood cells, as well as bone growth and heart health. There are certain components of yam that have been found in animal studies to improve upon the memory. There are also studies that have shown that yam has anti-cancer properties as well. Yams are high in phytoestrogens, which are the female hormones which are found in plants. And there are some limited studies that have shown benefits to women around menopause and who are going through menopause. Mr. Speaker, as we grow so much yam and we eat so much yam here, it would be an interesting thing to have a research dimension to the aspect of our nutrition. Because seeing as we have so many people who actually eat yam, we could have several studies actually exploring what the effects of yam are on the health of various persons in various age groups, to be able to come up with actual scientific evidence to prove the studies that say that yam has certain properties that actually enhance our health. It has also been found to have anti-inflammatory properties. Mr. Speaker, as we look at the supplements industry, with people proposing supplements that are made from all sorts of things, if we look at yam and we go further into research, perhaps yam could also be, sold on the supplement market in form of powder or in the form of capsules. But unless we have the studies to prove the efficacy of yam in promoting our health, it would be difficult to use that to enhance our product. And therefore, as we look at the issue of reducing post-harvest losses, we must also look at improving the quality of the product, not just in its raw form, but at adding value to it, in order to ensure that at the end of the day, the farmers who are investing in the production of yam know that there's an end product that will yield greater benefits and financial benefits to what they are engaged in. And so, Mr. Speaker, mine would be a suggestion that as we look at the percentage of our GDP that is dedicated towards research, yam should feature on the list of nutritional products that is considered as part of what we think could be one of the selling points of Ghana on the supplement industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I'll give the third one to you, Leader.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, in commenting on the statement, I must thank the Honorable Member for Panda for bringing to the attention of the House the plight of the yam farmer and the product itself. Mr. Speaker, coming from a rural constituency, I can see the challenges that the Honorable Member wants to bring about. Mr. Speaker, yam is one of the tuber crops that are produced in our transitional zone, the northern Bono Ahafo, the northern region, northern Volta, and the 3 or 5 regions in the north. But Mr. Speaker, it's a product, it's a commodity that we must draw our attention to. Always, I used to play with yam tubers when I had not had the opportunity to travel to the United Kingdom. But Mr. Speaker, when I had the opportunity to go to the UK, I went to the Ghana market, and the price of a tuber of yam, just one tuber of yam, could be used to buy 100 tubers in Ghana here. Then I asked myself, where is the source of this yam that you are selling here? Mr. Speaker, my attention was drawn to the Caribbeans and the Central Africa, and to be precise, Uganda. Mr. Speaker,
this is an area that we should turn our attention to. If you look at the lifespan of yam, it has a very short lifespan, and it's one of the perishable products which can easily go bad. And when they are produced in abundance, post-harvest losses becomes a problem. So, Mr. Speaker, once the member for Panda is bringing this to the attention of the House, we can exploit yam as one of the non-traditional export products, which will enable the country to be able to earn some foreign exchange and to be able to help maintain our fluctuations in our currency. So, Mr. Speaker, it is an area we should not just gloss over. We should include it in one of the products for the planting for food and jobs, and make sure that special attention is given to the yam farmer, and special care is given to the marketing of the yam after it has been produced. And Mr. Speaker, we must enable some of the yam farmers to even go to the United Kingdom, where the Ugandans and the Caribbeans are sending their yams and they are overtaking the market in Europe. So we should not just be looking within the country as producing yam just to feed ourselves, but we must look at yam not just as a food product, but as an exportable product which can be added to the non-traditional commodities to be able to earn foreign exchange into our country. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, once again, I thank the Honourable Member for Panda for bringing this to the attention of the House, and thank you.
Very well. I'll proceed to the next statement. The next statement is in the name of the Honourable Cynthia Mamle Morrison, congratulating His Excellency the President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo on re-election as ECOWAS Chair. Yes, Honourable.
Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make this statement to congratulate the President of the Republic, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, on his re-election as Chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of the Economic Community of West Africa. The mandate of the President as the leader of the sub-regional organization was unanimously renewed by the 14 heads of government who made it to the 59th ordinary session of the authority. The one-day summit, which was held here in Accra on Saturday, the 19th of June 2021, discussed a number of issues, including integration efforts, the COVID-19 situation, peace, security, and democracy in the region, the political situation in Mali, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and border issues, among others. In a communique issued at the end of the Accra Summit, the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS expressed sincere appreciation to the President of the Republic of Ghana and Chair of ECOWAS Authority of Heads of State and Government for exemplary leadership in steering the affairs of the community in the year under review. President Akufo-Addo was first elected as Chair of ECOWAS in the year 2020 to serve for 1-year term, as is the practice. He was re-elected in 2020 in the election year, which is unprecedented, to continue as chairman for 2 terms. Then, for 2021-2022, he has been re-elected to serve a 3rd consecutive year as chairman. Mr. Speaker, there is no doubt that this international recognition our president is receiving from his peers in Africa and across the globe is a testament of the great leadership acumen he has amply demonstrated over the years and continue to demonstrate, particularly in the period of global human crisis occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, which has shattered the world economy and destroyed many livelihoods. Mr. Speaker, it certainly cannot be gainsaid that across the world, if there's any leader who has seen his stock rise the most during this period of global health crisis is our President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. In fighting a global battle like this, demonstrable leadership is required. It cannot be business as usual thus far. Very few leaders in the world have demonstrated the kind of leadership we have seen in our President. He rose to the occasion, demonstrating exemplary leadership in this period of global health crisis to the admiration of the continent and the world leaders, who have not missed any opportunity to heap praises on the Ghanaian leader and the efforts of Ghanaians as a collective to confront the pandemic, whilst it is true that the President has been very careful not to be on the wrong side of the frustrated citizenry. It is indeed also true that he has been very daring and audacious under these circumstances. Even his fierce critics and political opponents could not hide their admiration for the boldness and decisiveness with which he has handled the crisis, both in the world and its deeds. Equally, Mr. Speaker, as observed by the heads of states and government of ECOWAS, at the time of political instability in Mali, Burkina Faso, and other parts of the sub-region, the President of Ghana demonstrated competent leadership that has ensured relative stability in the sub-region and, by extension, the region. Also under his leadership of the sub-regional organization, President Akufo-Addo has initiated reforms that have made the ECOWAS bloc more responsive to the agencies of the times, including the implementation of far-reaching protocols to foster development and prosperity. It is thus not surprising that the international community consistently reposed confidence in President Akufo-Addo. As we speak, he is also the co-chair of the United Nations Advocacy of Sustainable Development Goals. Ghana certainly could not have been blessed with such a better president at this moment. Mr. Speaker, it is also worth pointing out that this honor conferred on the President of the Republic is again a vindication of the sterling performance that his government is delivering on its social contracts with the Ghanaian people and transforming the Ghanaian society forward. It has been submitted by many economists, and rightly so, that prior to the outbreak of this deadly pandemic, the Ghanaian economic fundamentals were looking very good. And even with the deliberation impact of the COVID pandemic, our economy is not doing too badly compared with many countries on the continent and elsewhere due to resilience. Once again, I join the rest of the world to say congratulations to our President, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, for putting Ghanaians high on the world stage and for making us all proud again and again and again. And the glory goes to God and our country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the submission.
Yes, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the statement just made by my colleague, the MP for Agunawas, on President Akufo-Addo's assumption of office or being re-elected as chairman of ECOWAS. His election is in recognition of the leadership and the frontal role of Ghana has played in the formation of ECOWAS. In the past, Presidents Kufuor, President Mahama, and now Nana Addo have all been chosen as leaders or chairpersons of ECOWAS.
Nanado's taking up the position is by virtue of his democratic credentials and exemplary leadership qualities. And he's been chosen at a time that ECOWAS is in need of a very different type of leader who will be able to match the requirements of the office in the face of what is happening within the regional bloc. ECOWAS at the moment is under security attack. There is attacks in the north, Mali, Niger, Nigeria, Burkina Faso. They are all under terrorist attacks. And when we come down south, the Gulf of Guinea has been identified as one of the most security threatened maritime zones in the world. It therefore calls for a leader who can provide the leadership and the direction at this critical stage to be able to contain these security and terrorist attacks. And President Nanado is somebody who fits the bill. I am convinced that with Nanado's selection as the chairman of the ECOWAS, West Africa and ECOWAS will be able to ride the tides. And I hope that with the support, the overwhelming support that he's been given so far by the leadership of the ECOWAS region, I'm sure definitely ECOWAS is going to be able to ride whatever difficult situations that we found ourselves. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I support the statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me also thank our sister and congratulate her for making the statement to congratulate the President of the Republic for being elected a second time as the ECOWAS chair. Second time. Mr. Speaker, okay, I'll just be corrected at third time. Mr. Speaker, going through the roll call, you realize that the former President, Jerry John Rawlings, was an ECOWAS chair from 1994 to 1996. On the same vein, the former President, John Ajekum Kufuor, was also the ECOWAS chair from the year 2003 to 2005. And also we have the former President, John Dramani Mahama, also being the ECOWAS chair from 2014 to 2015. Mr. Speaker, the recent session of ECOWAS Parliament, the chair of the ECOWAS was the one who opened the session. One of the things that made us all proud was the fact that the Ghanaian president came to open the session when our meeting started in Abuja. Mr. Speaker, it is true, reading from my colleague's statement, that he took over when the whole world, including West Africa, was plagued with COVID, with so many problems that we have within the ECOWAS community. One of the things that we all looked at when we were at ECOWAS Parliament was the fact that, as a chair, he should be able to address the issue of our border closures in our sub-regions. Mr. Speaker, this is a community of members who wants to move freely from one country to another country, under what we call the free trade movement. But here we are, we cannot do business from one country to the other country. From Togo to Ghana, you cannot move freely. You have to fly in from Togo, and if you don't have money to fly in, and you try as much as possible to go and even, harvest your own cassava at the other side of the border, you'll be arrested for moving to your own farm. As ECOWAS chair, we are appealing to him to use his good office to appeal to his colleagues to open the borders for us, so that our brothers and sisters who are the other side of the community can move freely and do business with each other. Mr. Speaker, one of the things we have also realized is that within the community, most of the countries are not paying what we call their levies or the ECOWAS taxes or whatever they are supposed to pay to make their community work. Countries are not paying their levies. Cape Verde, for instance, has not paid, but when they were presenting their country report, they just tell you that yes, we'll be paying. Ghana has paid. Ghana has made substantial payment. Nigeria has also made substantial payment. But the rest of the countries are not paying. Mr. Speaker, if you don't pay your ECOWAS levy, how do you expect others to contribute for you, for the community to grow and to develop? Another thing we have also noticed has to do with the insecurity in our sub-region. Mr. Speaker, our big brothers Nigerians are suffering because there's so much insecurity there. You cannot even go out in the night because you are afraid that when you go out, you'll be abducted. It is time for our head of state to put their foot down and begin to have what we call pragmatic measures to deal with this issue of insecurity in our sub-region. Finally, Mr. Speaker, it will gladden my heart that on the tenure of our president, the ECO, or the ECOWAS currency will come into being. Currently, as we have now, another country called France, international country, has developed ECO with Cote d'Ivoire, whilst we are all trying hard to have one currency.
Common currency shortly. Then we set criteria, economic convergence things. One day this country gets half of them fulfilled. The other side of the country get it totally wrong, so the whole thing never gets passed. And who benefits from all these problems? Our colonial masters. France did not basically go to sidestep ECOWAS in trying to work out ECO with them. They know that if this works, it will be a problem to them. So as they've always done, and I've always said, the woes of the French-speaking countries is France themselves. Because I don't think the idea of assimilation is gone. They still want to have them under their belt so they can walk in and out as and when they like. So the current chairman has a big job to do. I wish that we can overcome some of this. Mr. Speaker, when you write your budget and your colonial master control 50% of actual money that will come through bilateral agreements, how independent are you going to be able to do anything of a sort? So largely, Mr. Speaker, ECOWAS has become a meeting where our leaders meet, dress nicely, speak good English and French, and hardly does much come out of it. I'm a citizen of ECOWAS. I keep asking myself, what do I find in my daily life which is an improvement brought in by ECOWAS? Is it that when COVID came, ECOWAS scientists came together and developed our own vaccine? No. Is it that they are able to put resources together and get us vaccines easier? We are still even trying to find vaccines in Ghana here. Has ECOWAS brought any arrangement to give us vaccines easier? No. So I ask again, yes, we are ECOWAS citizens. What do I benefit as a citizen of ECOWAS in the community? Until we are able to answer these questions, yes, we might have paid our dues. Yes, members of this house might have gone to that parliament. What is the benefit of ECOWAS to ECOWAS citizens? I don't have the answers, Mr. Speaker. Until I find the answer, I still think it's still a talk shop, sadly. I don't have any further comments to make, but Mr. Speaker, we need to work better until citizens begin to benefit, and we can do it better. But until we check off our dependence on our colonial masters, especially the French-speaking countries, that is going to be a bit difficult to do. Thank you very much, and I congratulate the maker of the statement. Thank you.
Yes.
And he would want to. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to comment on this statement ably made by my respected colleague, Cynthia Mamle Morrison. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has made its mark in the sub-region. In situations of instability, we contributed significantly in ensuring stability within the West Africa sub-region. The Speaker, mention can be made of efforts by President Rawlings and his government during the Liberian crisis, all the way through the Ivorian crisis. And, Mr. Speaker, the maker of the statement is now drawing our attention to the fact that Mr. President is occupying the chair of authorities of his peers for the third time. Obviously, this is to tell the world that Ghana as a nation has made significant progress in its democracy. Obviously, we have a 15-member organization, and if every country is to have a 10, I'm not too sure we would have it continuously for 3 terms. But because of the confidence member states have in Ghana for what we have done for ourselves, they believe that we can lead. Mr. Speaker, I remember when the President addressed the ordinary session in Abuja in May. It created a nostalgic moment in the chamber when he started addressing us in French. Mr. Speaker, clearly, he demonstrated that he could pull along both the Francophones and the Anglophones. Mr. Speaker, what does this tell us as a nation? Our president is leading the sub-region. We must do everything within our power as a parliament to create that enabling environment for democracy to be sustained in this country. And it's for this reason that I am happy that yesterday's demonstration was very peaceful. Ghanaians should be able to express themselves freely, express their concerns and grievances without any fear, whilst mindful of their responsibility of respecting the laws of the country. Mr. Speaker, I've had the benefit of visiting some countries in West Africa. In relative terms, Ghana is far, far ahead. But in absolute terms, we can do more for ourselves. This morning, we were told about the challenges in the cocoa sector, swollen shoots. We're also told about jam, a very key staple in our country. Farmers who are into that sector need support. So, Mr. Speaker, I am saying that as a country, whilst these democratic credentials are being celebrated, we can do more by changing our attitude, how we respond to government policies, and how we develop our little skills, area of agriculture, technology, service provision, and all that, so that we don't do anything that will become a burden on the country. If it becomes a burden on the country, the snowball effect will be that we ourselves will go round and look for someone to blame. Mr. Speaker, we must never look back. We are moving forward as a nation. It doesn't matter which party is in office and who is the president. It is all about Ghana. And what Mr. President has done is something that we must celebrate. It doesn't really matter. Mr. Speaker, whilst I'm congratulating Mr. President, may I also take the opportunity to inform the House that as a result of all the great strides we are making as a nation, ECOWAS Parliament took a decision to bring the next extraordinary session to Ghana in September. So, Speaker, coincidentally, they are taking it to Winneba. Coincidentally, they are taking it to Winneba. Mr. Speaker, the capital of Ifutu. So, Mr. Speaker, I would want to conclude by saying that we are putting our country on the global map. We should continue to do so, and the benefits would be for us as a country. I thank you so much for the opportunity. I know.
Very well. I have one last statement.
Oh, Mr. Speaker, to conclude, it must be emphasized that the great strides of Ghana has also been so recognized by the CPA and yours truly, the majority leader and leader of government business, Minister of Parliamentary Affairs, Mr. Speaker, has been elected as a vice chair. Mr. Speaker, whilst we are celebrating Mr. President, we must celebrate our own. Mr. Speaker, whilst we are celebrating Mr. President, we must celebrate our own. Because, Mr. Speaker, his long stay.
Honorable Deputy, it will be proper to bring a statement
very well
to
Mr.
congratulate
Speaker, closely
the leader,
connected,
rather than couple him to the statement to congratulate the President.
Mr. Speaker, very well, very well. Nexus has been established, though, but Mr. Speaker, I take a cue. That notwithstanding, Mr. Speaker, just for emphasis, our own is a vice chair of CP. Mr. Speaker, you won't say yeah. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
We said two each. Two have spoken from your side. Two have spoken from your side already.
Mr. Speaker, I was going to speak and the leader said he would speak.
You would have been three.
Okay, then let me say so.
Very well. I'll allow you the last.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to make few comments on the statement that was ably made by my colleague on the other side. Mr. Speaker, in matters like this, we must come together to congratulate the President on his election for the third time as the President of the ECOWAS Parliament. Mr. Speaker, this comes from the fact that Ghana, which is the blaster of Africa, has always been proven as a shining example on the continent or on the global arena. The Speaker, starting from the first President of the Republic, who was President Kwame Nkrumah, was not only an African leader. Then when it came to the era of President Jerry John Rawlings, he was elected as the chair of ECOWAS. President Kufuor followed him, President Mahama followed him, and the President Akufo-Addo has done same for the third time. The Speaker, not only that, President Akufo-Addo has also inherited the former position of President Mahama as the co-chair of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. The Speaker, this shows that if you are able to support President Akufo-Addo very well, the next President of Ghana is also going to be elected to chair the ECOWAS community. But Mr. Speaker, positions should not always be considered as when you are elected to serve in a position, then it becomes an achievement. We must focus on the legacies that are left behind after having been given those positions. In future, if one is going to say President Akufo-Addo was elected for the third time as ECOWAS chair, the question that will follow the next is what were the achievements? And that is why I'm calling on all of us to support him to be able to lead well. The Speaker, listen to the statement very well. It presupposes and listen to the contributions by the chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee. If I heard him clearly, he said there's insecurity in Mali, insecurity in Niger, insecurity in Burkina Faso, insecurity in Nigeria, insecurity in almost everywhere. It's like insecurity is the problem of the sub-region. And if that is the case, we must able to support our president very well to be able to bring an end to those kind of insecurity. Mr. Speaker, I happened to travel to Mali with the Honorable Majority Leader and led by the Honorable Majority Leader. And when we wanted to go out from the hotel, the marshal was finding it very difficult because he was the one who accompanied us to give us security. Even in Mali, he was afraid. Mr. Speaker, it becomes very difficult to go out within the sub-region, and we must not take things for granted. It is on that note, Mr. Speaker, that I want to call on all of us to signal and make humble submission to our president that, for one, we must take security as one of the core duties that he wants to do, to bring that one as a legacy. I remember when President Mahama was the chair for ECOWAS Parliament, one thing he wanted to do was to make sure that they changed the legal status of the ECOWAS Parliament from advisory to legislation. So, Speaker, when they met in Accra here, the Accra conference voted against it. Until now, the ECOWAS Parliament, which is the community parliament, is still advisory in nature. So, Mr. Speaker, if you form a sub-region, which is going to be an economic integration, then all the countries or the sub-countries close their borders. You don't come to my country, and I don't come to your country, then you say that we are a sub-regional body. Sub-regional for what? And what kind of economic integration are we pursuing? Ghana has closed borders with Togo. We have closed borders with Cote d'Ivoire. Nigeria has closed borders. Yes, sir. The Speaker, we can't say that we are a 16-member sub-regional economic community. Meanwhile, individually, we have closed all the borders. We don't trade with each other. But, Mr. Speaker, that was not the brainchild for the formation of the earlier heads of state who formed ECOWAS. Mr. Speaker, and if these current presidents do not follow or search for the mission for the formation of those sub-regional bodies, we may not be able to achieve our aim. I happen to be one of the delegation of the former Speaker of the House, Professor Makokwe, when we went to Egypt. We went to Egypt to build upon the foundations that were laid by Professor Mills. And what did we go there to do? We went to the Egyptian president and the Speaker of Parliament to plead Ghana being given the opportunity to host the African Continental Free Trade. And Mr. Speaker, when we were going there, Professor Makokwe went with the building, the structures for the secretariat that were built by the former president, Professor Mills, and President Mahama. And when we showed it, the Egyptians were amazed. They said, "Oh, Ghana, we were going to vie for it. If you have taken the lead, we will support you. You are our in-laws." Mr. Speaker, God being so good, they all supported us. And as I speak now, that African Continental Free Trade is being given to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we have that one. But if you have African Continental Free Trade, then you have closed your borders with all your sister countries. How are you going to function? These are the serious things, Mr. Speaker, I want to bring to the attention of the House for us to support His Excellency the President. 3 terms in the same position is not a mere issue. God has been so good to him. But there is a saying, to whom much is given, much is expected. He must correct all the problems there and work towards bringing normalcy to Mali, to be able to make sure that we bring peace to Mali. If we're able to do this in future, Ghana will be remembered as one of the most peaceful countries that led the shining example in bringing peace to all the sub-regional countries. With these few words, Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Honourable members, there's one more statement submitted by the Honourable Member for Shire Sudoku, Linda Obniwa Akwele Uklu. It's on the UN International Widows Day. She's on here very well. Sorry, Honorable Leader, did you want to contribute to this debate on the statement?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Speaker, I had a few observations, but I thought we have closed the chapter.
Very well.
If you have closed the chapter,
I didn't look up. I thought the last one. You may do it since they have had 3. You can also have that one.
Okay, Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, a few observations, as I've said. First, to congratulate my colleague, the Honorable Cynthia Morrison, for bringing this statement, to congratulate our President for this unprecedented achievement. Speaker, heads of state in the sub-region have had occasion to head the authority of heads of state and governments in the sub-region on more than one occasion. It started with President Rawlings, who was made the head of the chairman of the authority of heads of state and government on 2 consecutive occasions. Then he was followed by President Obasanjo, and then President Kufuor. President Mahama also had occasion to also lead the authority of heads of state and government in the ECOWAS sub-region on 2 occasions. Mr. Speaker, President Kufuor is doing it for the 3rd time, and that is unprecedented. Mr. Speaker, it is also unprecedented to relate to the fact that no president has been made the head of the authority of heads of state and government in an election year. It is only Akufo-Addo who was given this opportunity to be the head in an election year in the country. The Speaker, he won, and when he won, he has been repeated the 3rd time as the chairman of the heads of state and government. Mr. Speaker, so this is the 3rd time. This is the 3rd time. The election year was the 2nd time. The election year was the 2nd time. Mr. Speaker, but the contribution from the Deputy Minister for Foreign Affairs is significant. What it means is that whereas Ghana is making progress in the sub-region, some of the countries are stagnating or deteriorating as far as the benchmarks of democracy are concerned. And that should be a cause of worry for us in the sub-region. The issue about insecurity in the sub-region, the Speaker, is rearing its ugly head. And west of it, it's not only happening in the Sahelian countries. West of it is the fact that last year, what happened in the Gulf of Guinea, unprecedented in the annals of Africa. The Speaker, the piracy, about 92% of piracy in the high seas happened in West Africa. And that should be very scary to us. That should be very scary to us. And that is why it's important to concentrate on retooling our security forces, because danger is looming gradually, and we should not take things for granted. Mr. Speaker, colleagues have spoken about border conflicts. We in Ghana have been spared, but we are not out of the woods, and we should be able to protect ourselves. Unfortunately, we have to do this at a time when we should be talking about opening up our borders for colleagues from other sister African and West African countries. But it's not easy. Because, Mr. Speaker, if we're not careful, we may be unconsciously importing terrorism into Ghana. So it's simplistic when some colleagues say that, we should be opening up our borders to receive all comers. We should be careful. What is happening really, Mr. Speaker, we should be addressing it. I don't know how the intelligence agencies are going to combine forces to ensure the stability and integrity of the Republic, because we need to protect ourselves first. In international relations, the interest of the country is paramount, rather than what should obtain in the entirety of Africa or even West Africa. We should exist as a country first before we begin to foray into other West African countries. Mr. Speaker, we should know that the ECOWAS is not a political union. When people say that we should be opening up our borders, it's not a political union, unlike the European Union. Ours is an economic community of West African states. However, the question to ask is whether or not we are having, we are reaping sufficient dividends from this union. We should be engaging in trade. Unfortunately, countries in the sub-region are erecting trade barriers. Mr. Speaker, until recently, when one has to travel from Ghana by road to Nigeria, you enter Ghana from Accra to Aflao, maybe you meet about three barriers before you get to Aflao. Now enter Lome. Between Lome and the border of Benin, you are going to encounter 16 barriers within Togo. We then cross from Hilakonji to Benin Republic, and on the coast, before you get to the border with Nigeria. So many of them. And from the border post in Nigeria to Lagos, 4 barriers. Mr. Speaker, how are we improving trade among of West African citizens entering? Is real. How are we enhancing the economic community? From Elubo to Abidjan, you see the number of barriers. You encounter 18 barriers to Abidjan. That's short distance. How are we enhancing trade? Mr. Speaker, so we should be addressing these matters. Colleagues have spoken to the convergence criteria. The Honorable Governor Abuja was relating to it. Until now, until 2 years back, we had 6 primary convergence criteria that we had to fulfill in order to be able to migrate onto the ECO. 6 primary and 4 secondary. There were 10 criteria. Now they have been consolidated into 6. And Mr. Speaker, it's not easy. They are not easy barriers to scale over. So we need to move on these matters. If we want to enhance trade, again, we should be looking at improvement in our transportation network. But we are most deficient in this. In Ghana, as we do know, since independence, we've not added 1 inch to our rail network. Rather, we have been suffering deterioration in rail network. Recently, we've come with a Marshall Plan to improve our rail network. We're talking about extending rail network from Accra to Burkina Faso, through Kumasi, through the Eastern Corridor, and also through Takoradi, through Techiman, towards Wenchi, and then to Wahamle. Mr. Speaker, how are we moving with some speed on this? Until we do this, we continue to construct roads which will not last. Because haulage is about everything by road. And no matter how we build our roads, they are going to suffer deterioration because of the heaviness of the load that we carry on the road. Mr. Speaker, so I would want to add my voice to the statement made. We should at the same time be appealing to our colleagues in the other West African states to do more than they are doing to protect the integrity and sanctity of the states in West Africa, in order that we have adequate markets to improve the lot of our people. Mr. Speaker, in the meantime, we should be congratulating our President for adding value to our governance and ensuring that Ghana is advancing on the path of democracy. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the space granted.
The last statement admitted is not going to be read because the person who submitted the statement is not in the House. Now, the commencement of public business. Honorable Majority Leader, which one, if I may be guided?
Mr. Speaker, we'll deal with item 15 on page 11.
15 or 16?
15.
Very well. Honorable members, item number 15. 15. Motion by the chairman of the committee.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion listed as item 15 on today's paper, page 11. I so move.
Yes, Honorable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion.
Honorable members, this is a procedural motion. I'll put the question. All in favor of adopting the procedural motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. Now, item number 16.
Speaker, I beg to move that this Honorable House adopts the report of the Committee on Environment, Science and Technology on the cooperation agreement between the Government of the Republic of Ghana, acting through the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, and the Swiss Confederation, acting through the Federal Department for the Environment, Transport, Energy and Communications, towards the implementation of the Article 6 of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. Speaker, in moving the motion, I would like to present the committee's report. I'll kindly ask the Hazard Department to capture the report as having been read in full, whilst I give the background to the report and make some observations and conclude. So, Speaker, the bilateral cooperation agreement between the Republic of Ghana and the Swiss Confederation towards the implementation of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement was laid in Parliament on Tuesday, 15th June 2021 by the Honourable Minister for Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, Honourable Dr. Kwekwe Friye, in accordance with Article 75(2)(b) of the Constitution and Order 185 of the Standing Orders of Parliament. The agreement was written on Environment, Science and Technology for consideration and report to this House. Mr. Speaker, the committee met on Wednesday, 30th June and Thursday, 1st July to consider the agreement. The Honourable Minister and the technical team from the Ministry were present to assist the committee in our deliberations. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to make some observations from the committee. It's captured on page 4. The committee made the following observations as captured as 11.1 to 11.16 in the report. Mr. Speaker, having gone through and examined the content of the agreement in the light of its objects and purpose, The committee is of the view that the agreement is consistent with the Constitution and other relevant statutes of Ghana and will also be of immense benefit to the nation. The committee accordingly recommends to the House to adopt its report and ratify the bilateral cooperation agreement between the Republic of Ghana and the Government of Switzerland towards the implementation of Article 6 of the Paris Climate Change Agreement. Respectfully submitted.
Yes,
thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion, and I'm seconding the motion, Mr. Speaker. And in supporting it, Mr. Speaker, I have some few comments to make on the report. Mr. Speaker, this agreement, as the chairman said, is in fulfillment of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement that we have signed on to. Mr. Speaker, the agreement seeks to help in mitigating the emissions and, for that matter, achieving our goal of reducing environmental temperature by 1% in the future. Mr. Speaker, this agreement comes with some benefits, aside the fact that we are going to have some support financially. Mr. Speaker, this agreement, when implemented, would also aid in the creation of jobs. It will also support in the transfer of technology, because there's going to be some investment in the installation of clean stove. It is also going to involve the installation of solar and other, that will help in the reduction of emissions. Mr. Speaker, in all these, one thing that I believe that our government must also do is that, much as this is part of the agreement, we must also learn from these. Let's actualize it by localizing, whatever programs that we are being supported by the Swiss government to do. In effect, Mr. Speaker, what the Swiss government is going to provide is just $20 million. And I believe that Ghana government can also, since this is a pilot program, and this is just going to be over a period of, we can decide as a government in providing more support for this program. So that at the end of the day, Mr. Speaker, our quest to get temperatures reduced, our contribution towards reduction in emission would, Mr. Speaker, be enhanced. And in so doing, Mr. Speaker, more technology, technology transfer, will also be achieved. And more jobs, Mr. Speaker, will also be created as we attempt to reduce this carbon emission. Mr. Speaker, another thing that came up strongly was interministerial. I've always been talking about collaboration between ministries and departments. Mr. Speaker, this program also seeks to enhance that aspect, which would in turn reduce duplication and therefore waste insofar as implementation of programs in this country is concerned. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, I will urge that this House ratify this agreement so that its benefit, will be achieved. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yes, Leila.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the motion for the adoption and ratification of the agreement between the Republic of Ghana and the Swiss Confederation towards the implementation of Article 6 of the Paris Agreement. And Mr. Speaker, to note that the Paris Agreement is an agreement within the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, on climate change mitigation, adaptation, and finance, which was signed in 2016. I understand that some 195 countries since April 22nd, 2016 have signed onto it after it was drafted. Mr. Speaker, I should further note that the United States of America, along the line, became an obstacle to the full implementation of the Paris Agreement following the position which was taken by then President Trump on the Paris Agreement. I believe that the shift in political power in the United States and the position of President Biden to pursue multilateralism and not unilateralism, which was being championed by Trump, have further helped the world in believing that the objectives laid out in this framework can be pursued and achieved. But, Mr. Speaker, in contributing to the motion, let me make two observations. Mr. Speaker, if you read this committee, along the line we are told Republic of Ghana and the Swiss Confederation. Then when you read the text, Mr. Speaker, you see another word being introduced, consortium, Swiss consortium. It cannot mean one and the same. So probably the minister will have to explain. If you come to page 4, paragraph 10.0, it says, parties to the agreement, Ghana acting through the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation, and the Switzerland, even the wording there, and Switzerland, you don't need the dead there, acting through the Swiss consortium, acting through the Swiss consortium. Then here you have Swiss Confederation. Then you have Swiss government. What are we ratifying? So we will need some clarity of the sort. Mr. Speaker, just ahead there in paragraph 9.0, I believe that the word there should also be expunged from the record of the committee's report. It says, relevant national laws and regulations, including the 1992 Constitution of the Ghana. The there should also be deleted. Of Ghana, the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. Then, Mr. Speaker, further to my observation, if we are quoting, we should quote verbatim, accurate from the Constitution. And, Mr. Speaker, I refer you further to Article 36 of the 1992 Constitution. Clause 9 of it have been quoted. And, Mr. Speaker, I just refer to the committee's report to just oppose the argument I'm coming to make. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm coming to justification in paragraph 5.0. It says, pursuant to Article 36.9 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, Ghana is enjoined to cooperate with other states to protect and safeguard the national environment for posterity and to protect the wider international environment for mankind. And I'm saying that that is a soul lifting of what is in 9. And therefore, when the committee is reporting, quote extensive from the Constitution, and we know what you are relying on. Mr. Speaker, apart from that, we are told in this report, and that's what the ranking member is, when you come to financials, we are told that this agreement does not affect any laws of Ghana. But it says that the investment requirement for the implementation of the 31 action is estimated at 22.6 billion over the 10-year period. How much can Ghana contribute to the realization of this? Ours will be to give our commitment in terms of lowering green gas emissions as a country. When it comes to the financial muscle, we just don't have it to be able to make any meaningful contribution to it. But, Mr. Speaker, the committee goes further to explain that the price of There is a price of carbon dioxide emission, which is being discussed, as I said, with government of Switzerland. So if you are talking of government of Switzerland, say so. If it is confederation, say so. If it is consortium, say so. We are using too many words in this report. In one breath, Swiss government, another breath, Swiss confederation, another side, Swiss consortium. That can lead to some confusion. But Mr. Speaker, we are only doing what is expected of us under Article 75(2) of the 1992 Constitution, and to pray that the minister will work hard with us representing the state to ensure that we benefit from it. But as I indicated, there seems to be a global challenge to the implementation of this because many of the rich countries which are contributing heavily to these emissions are not demonstrating real commitment to the objective of what is popularly referred to as COP24 within the UN framework. Speaker, I support the motion.
Yes, Honorable Patricia Fletcher.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity to add my voice to the ratification of this agreement. In doing so, I'd like to commend the committee for their effort to really digress these issues and coming up with a report of this nature. One or two observations that I've made in this report, which requires an immediate attention. And one such area is the review of the NDCs. You agree with me that the NDCs are too elaborate and they are too ambitious. And there have always been a call from the UN for us to have a critical look at it and review the NDCs. So in ratifying this agreement, I'm going to call on the ministry to ensure the review of the NDCs. There's also one particular area I'd like to stress, and that is the understanding of the ordinary person on the street. Since the actions that we are going to take involves almost everybody, even if we look at the issue of deforestation and afforestation, it is one area that everybody must understand, especially people within our villages and farming communities. They need to understand what their actions can contribute to the effects of the climate change. And therefore, I don't see in this report the deliberate mention of the involvement of the media that I have seen on page 4, item number 10, that there's a communication plan. But what I want to stress is the effort of the media. We need to identify and groom ambassadors in the media landscape to ensure that each and every one will understand. If we understand what we are doing to our environment, we wouldn't be selling our farmlands for galamsey. And therefore, it is a critical requirement to ensure that we have ambassadors who will be going through these farming areas and all other aspects of our environmental needs to address this particular issue. Thank you, Mr. In doing so, I'd like to add my voice for the ratification of this agreement. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Can I put a question now? Yes. Honourable members, at the conclusion of the debate in the House, the question is all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. this House. Very well, we'll go to item number 17, resolution. Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. I rise to urge the House to assent to the resolution listed as item 17 on page 12 of today's order paper. Thank you. I so move.
Yes. So, yes, Ranki.
That's a second.
Honourable members, all in favour of the House adopting resolution number 17 on page 12 of today's order paper, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. This House has adopted the resolution number 17 on page 12 of today's order paper. Yes, Honourable Leader.
Speaker, yes, we are done for today, except to urge that the committees that have been listed to do business tomorrow, they are and transact business before the House sits at 2. Speaker, these days when we are sitting at 2, the committee should sit ahead of the plenary sittings. So I noticed that the business committee's meeting is listed to begin at 11. We certainly do that. The finance committee is also slated to meet at 10. They should endeavor to do that as well. On that account, I'll want to move that the House do now adjourn to meet tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I so move.
Yes, Honourable Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion for adjournment and assure that tomorrow we'll be able to move motion 18. I thank you.
Honourable members, the motion has been moved and seconded. All in favour of the motion say aye. All against say no. The ayes have it. This House is accordingly adjourned to Thursday, 8th July 2021 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.